Mark Howard's work is heavily influenced by the traditions of Japanese art, but Mark is always open to new methods and experimentation. Mark shows me how he hopes to build an image that features a lot of breathing space and very subtle differences in background textures. So tell me where your idea for this one came from, Mark.
Well, I'm very much influenced, like I said, by sort of Japanese art. So just lately, it's been about kind of the space. When you see Japanese art on a, say, a scroll, it's like there's a lot of space with a hint of the design, and it's just that balance that really I'm attracted to, you know, where it's not too busy, it's a calm sort of feeling. So I was trying to think about what to do on a small piece, and yeah, this kind of single flower, I think it just might, I don't know, it just might work. It appeals to me. So the artwork on this was quite nice, how the printer dragged the colour. So that gave me the idea of working with some of the kind of techniques that I've done before. So what I'm trying to do with this is have the main feature, but this will create a mask, and then from the back, hopefully I'll have this soft falling colour contrasting here. So the space, the difference between the, you know, the softness and the plainness, hopefully I'm going to try and achieve this here. So we'll see how we go.
My understanding is limited, but I guess that you can't necessarily tell the colours in advance until they've been fired. Or
well, what I'm actually doing with this one is putting a luster on, so it's going to be a soft colour. This is a commercial glass that's got a treated side to it, so once we turn this over and fire it down, the black is acting like a mask or a resist. So what I should be able to do is pick up a texture on the background, which should be something like this kind of texture. With the luster, you'll get this very soft glitter. So the idea is to put this section here. The black will be a masked flat area, which then once it's fired, this should be a softer area. So once it's fired, it comes back out. Then I can then come to do the brushwork over the top. So that should be fairly flat. The detail of the brushwork will come in after. So that'll be a second fire. All I'm trying to do here is set the background, fingers crossed, because glass has a way of telling you who's in charge. This piece here might give you a better idea. So this section here should hopefully be this section here, and this section back here should be a flatter section. So we should have this kind of soft and flat. If this piece was bigger, then I would stretch it to have that sort of emptiness, but it's just a small kind of cameo, I suppose. So that's what we're going to try and aim for here.
Where did your interest in glass stem from?
So going back to the UK, my father was a glass cutter. He originally was Merchant Navy, came out of there, went to be a painter and decorator. Then from there he went working in a glass company, and he swept floors, labouring, and slowly but surely he moved up the ladder and ended up managing a glass company. And he used to work probably about half an hour, 40 minutes away where we lived. And my mum used to, he didn't drive at the time, so my mum used to go and pick him up from work and say to the kids, we'd be 8, 9, something like that, and we'd go and keep her company. That was my first introduction of seeing my dad in a glass shop cutting glass. So over the years he moved from one company, ended up managing a company, and I remember one day he brought home a diamond tipped glass cutter, and he had a calendar of some British birds. I'll never forget this. And he just put a piece of clear glass and he just scratched the feathers. and lifted it up, and then all of a sudden, from nothing, there was this engraved panel. So that was my kind of first interest, probably round about 10, 11. Then school holidays, I'd go in sweeping the floors, and then they'd give me a piece of glass to cut, and then that's how it started. From then, I went into the industry, left school on a Friday, started work on a Monday, and yeah, from there it's just stemmed from cutting glass, then carrying on with the engraving. I was 21. I think my mum and dad bought me a flexible drive dentist drill, so I was engraving glass. Then from there I thought I need to cover, I was doing goblets and little bits, but I needed to cover, or I wanted to cover bigger areas. So I kind of then moved it to sandblasting glass. And then from there, it just was this natural progression. You know, we'd have stained glass coming in to be repaired. I didn't know how to repair them. So I had to then do, like a workshop, self-teach and learning how to fix these broken LED lights. Then from there, you'd walk in a church and you'd look up and think, how on earth is this done? So over the years, you get the books, you read, you ask, you talk to as many people as you can. And so we moved from there to painting glass, then firing it, then fusing glass, then doors open for different things where, you can melt it, fuse it, paint it. Photographic imagery had started to come in, silk screening. So yeah, everything. So I've always done glass. I think I always will. Yeah.
And the obvious next question is, where do the ideas spring from? What's your
ideas? That's a difficult one, because I think when you start looking at artists in the usual stained glass books, I remember my brother bought me a contemporary stained glass book, and that just really blew my mind, because I'd just been looking at traditional LED light, stained glass, the old stuff. Then the new stuff came in with different techniques, and God, it was just unbelievable what was being done. Just different techniques, and that just blew my mind. So yeah, so you follow a few of the usual suspects for the artists, but then you might have an interest, like my interest is in Japanese art, so I would go to there and then try to interpret how can I use that, or how can I use what I do in glass with that element. So yeah, it comes from everywhere and anywhere. Patterns in concrete, just obviously a lot of nature stuff, different artists, everywhere, yeah. Very difficult to answer that one, because it just comes from it, yeah, everywhere and anywhere. So I think somebody said to me once, I'm a collector of ideas, so I just grab these things, store them somewhere, and then something might happen and I'll bring them out, and then we'll see what happens. So yeah. So this is luster. Generally used for the ceramic industry, which we're very closely related to. Obviously we use a kiln, but we don't necessarily go up to the temperatures that the ceramicists work at. But some of the products I've found we can kind of do a crossover. So these lusters, we were getting just through playing around, we were getting a couple of really interesting effects on the glass surface. So it's something this last couple of years I've been kind of playing around with. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So when I say that, it's like frustrating, because we don't know quite how things are going to work.
So there's an inevitable element of risk in what you're doing?
Well, it's like everything. When we start working in glass, the first thing everybody says is, if you're going to do anything and you're going to try and work on the glass or with the glass, test, because some glasses have different reactions to stains, some glasses have different reactions when they're in the kiln. Sometimes, you know, you can get a matte surface if you're working with one kind of glass, which is a commercial glass. The same kind of, exactly the same technique will give you something totally different. So, depending on what you're working with, depending on what you want to try to achieve, this is quite interesting because that same piece of glass, I made a pattern in the kiln, put the glass down, face down, we got this reaction. Then I silvered it, or I got it silvered, so it's a mirror on the back. That's a mirror on the front. This is the same piece of glass, but look at the effect. It's just, so depending on what you want to do, it's just, yeah, test, test, test. So like I say, it's one of those things where, you know, hopefully what you're trying to do comes out.
And I imagine if you get a surprise with some technique, you can, as long as you can remember what you did, you can do it again.
I've got this was one of the surprises, because the idea was I was working on something and I wondered how I was going to display this. Was it going to be a piece on the wall? Was it going to be a piece in a window? So I thought, well, if it's going on the wall, I wonder what it looks like if I silver the piece. So I sent it to the silverers, and he did it. He gave it me the original one. He actually said, "Oh, sorry, Mark, I've silvered the wrong side." I was expecting this, but what he actually gave me was that. I could not believe the amount of difference. It's obviously a chemical reaction with the silvering that gave me that. So that I came away I was just bouncing on air. I could not believe.
It's beautiful.
It is. The only thing is I've got to figure out what to do with it. You know, it's like, I really like this, the subtlety of this. So that's got a place somewhere. But that one just started me thinking about different things. You know, if I silk screen or painted with such a thing, I know I can get a particular reaction. However, it still needs tests. Once you know roughly what you can aim for, that's where, fingers crossed, when you open the kiln, yes, you've got what you're aiming for. I've had a couple of little issues where, was the temperature right? Was it not right? What was the issue with this one? So, yeah, glass has a tendency to just tell you who's in charge. So, fingers crossed. And that's what happens. And you only have to forget a little thing, and it comes around and bites you in your backside. But like I said, once you do get those happy accidents, and it just sends you off in a different avenue where you then start pursuing different things.
So you keep notes of what you're doing to say, oh yeah, okay, good.
That book is just test results. It's interesting when I look back and I look what I've written, I'm thinking, what does that mean? And then I have to kind of rethink what I did and then just amend my results. But yeah, I try and write down everything I can. Today's experiment is here, it's here. So my last entry there is result. So when this comes out, bang, write it down. Hopefully we can, we can eliminate problems or issues.
That's great.
So yeah. So I've got a tester here. This is like I said, a piece, commercial glass. This is a photographic decal or decal that I can do on a laser printer. So that should now burn off, but hopefully I'm looking for that image to be somehow embossed on that surface. So here are a couple of lustres. That's all going to go down face down, and hopefully we get a result out of that. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but
that's great. The mixing of techniques is fantastic.
Yeah. And that's what excites me. That's what drives me to mess around here. How you can take a piece of just commercial glass, make a texture in the kiln, and come up with slumped glass. From there, it's kind of, well, what can I do to this? Because this is, it could be just run-of-the-mill stuff. We can bond things you know, we can add colour into this when it goes into the kiln. In here, so we've got a whiting bed here, so you can put glass on there. We can put glass on top of that. But the beauty of this is, if you wanted to, you know, do some pattern work, like so,
Oh yeah.
whatever you wanted to kind of do there, so then you can put a piece of glass on top of that, and the glass will fall into that pattern. So you can put, you know, dots in, lines in,
Oh yeah, beautiful.
you know, just kind of anything you want. And the glass will pick up on that texture.
Right.
Beautiful. Piece of glass goes in clear, flat, comes out textured. Magic.